The NEO GEO arcade system by SNK had some of the best looking sprite-based games of its time. Franchises like Metal Slug and Samurai Shodown looked better than anything you could get at home at the time. The Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis paled in comparison to what the NEO GEO was capable of. So today's question, was the Sega Saturn actually capable of bringing home near-perfect arcade versions of SNK games? Well, let's find out. A few years before the Sega Saturn came out, I fell in love with a little game called Samurai Shodown. They had one at my local bowling alley just a few blocks away from my house. Let me see, they had Marvel vs. Capcom, Miss Pac-Man, Super Off-Road, I think is what it was called, some pinball game, and a Neo Geo system that had two games in it. Bust-A-Move, and it had Samurai Shodown. Just in case you weren't around in those days, the Neo Geo arcade machine was an amazing concept. Arcade operators loved them because it was a cartridge-based system. Some machines were capable of storing up to 4 games. I mean, it was incredible. And whenever I would find one at a pizza place or a mall, I knew I was in for a good time. The Neo Geo MVS arcade system was definitely something special. You could tell that SNK put a lot of love into these games, and they were beautiful. Large, colorful sprites, fluid animations, and a great sound chip. Not only was there an arcade version, which is how everybody discovered it, but there was also a home version called the NEO GEO AES. Now, this was pretty expensive. It came in at around $650, so most people probably didn't buy it back then. It was considered the Rolls-Royce of gaming systems at the time. I mean, Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis could not even touch it. I have the NEO Geo Arcade Stick Pro, which is not like the originals, but you know what? It has HDMI out and it comes with 20 games, so it's not bad. Plus, you can hack it to add more games to it. While other consoles like the Mega Drive and Super Nintendo tried to port Neo Geo titles, but unfortunately the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis were just a bit underpowered compared to the Neo Geo. These 16-bit consoles struggled with the massive sprites, smooth animation, and intense action that made Neo Geo games pretty freaking cool. So what are some awesome Neo Geo games that came out on Sega Saturn? Of course, I'm going to start off with Metal Slug. As you know from my previous videos, I bought this game at the mall with my brother, like 20 years ago, maybe even more. This game is one of the greatest run-and-gun games ever made. For me, run-and-gun games became popular with Contra. My brother and I used to play Contra all the time. So Metal Slug takes that formula and takes it on a whole other level. Now, Metal Slug is known for its incredibly detailed pixel art, smooth animation, and challenging gameplay. The Saturn port is remarkably faithful to the arcade version. All the explosions, vehicle transformations, and prisoner rescues are all here. And the Saturn's controller is perfect for the precise jumping and shooting required to survive Metal Slug's relentless enemy onslaughts. What I love about this port is that it preserves all the little details and humor that makes Metal Slug special. I like how the prisoners give you power-ups, and the way your character gets fat after grabbing too much food, and those satisfying explosions when you take down a boss. By the way, the bosses look incredible in this game. If you're a Saturn owner and you haven't tried this game yet, I suggest you get it. Okay, up next by SNK, we have their flagship King of Fighters series. On the Saturn, you've got King of Fighters 95, 96, and 97. I was never a huge King of Fighters fan myself, so I never really dived into these games too much. I was more of a Samurai Shodown guy, but we'll get into that later. Needless to say, the Saturn received excellent ports of these King of Fighters games. I think one thing that's cool about these games is that they combine characters from Fatal Fury, Art of Fighting, and a few other SNK properties. At the time when King of Fighters came out on Saturn, everyone was blown away with how close they stayed to the arcade originals. I mean, the sprites are nearly identical, the animation is fluid, and all the frames of animation are preserved. I mean, of course, since it's a disc-based machine, there's some minor loading times between matches, but that's a small price to pay for having the arcade experience at home without spending a fortune on an AES. The next series of games are Samurai Shodown. So you can actually get Samurai Shodown 3 and 4 for the Sega Saturn. I absolutely love this series. I love that it was actually the first one-on-one fighting game I ever played where you could use weapons. And I just really enjoyed Samurai Showdown. I thought the animations were really special. I like how blood would shoot out or you could chop somebody in half. You could really tell that the creators over at SNK really put a lot of heart and effort into the Samurai Showdown series. With that being said, the Saturn versions of Samurai Showdown 3 and 4 are particularly impressive. They capture that distinct Japanese aesthetic of the originals, with cherry blossoms floating across the screen, detailed dojos, and atmospheric music. I just can't say enough how well these games are done. They actually were able to keep the rage gauge mechanics and precise hit detection that made Samurai Showdown such a technical fighter. One well-timed strike could turn the tide of battle, making every match tense and exciting. Alright, I'm not trying to make this video super long, so let's just talk about Real Bout Fatal Fury Special here. It offered a unique fighting experience. The Saturn port is definitely a technical marvel. It maintains a multi-plane fighting system, characters can jump between the foreground and background, and all the stage interactions are preserved, and the special move effects look gorgeous on the Saturn hardware. I always really loved the zooming effect that this game had based on the distance between the fighters. So how did the Saturn pull off these amazing ports, Well, obviously it comes down to the system's architecture. While the PlayStation excelled at 3D, the Saturn was built with 2D gaming in mind. Its dual Hitachi processors and dedicated VDP chips were perfect for handling the large sprites and multiple scrolling backgrounds found in NEO GEO games. The Saturn also packed 2 megs of internal RAM, which was crucial for loading those detailed character sprites. And you can actually upgrade that with a 4 meg card. But unlike earlier 16-bit consoles, the Saturn could display hundreds of colors simultaneously, preserving the colorful and vibrant look of NEO GEO games. Saturn developers also became increasingly skilled at optimization as the console aged. Later NEO GEO ports took better advantage of the hardware, resulting in even closer arcade translations. So for all you collectors out there, these NEO GEO ports are highly sought after. Most of these games were released exclusively in Japan, making them relatively rare in Western collections. So if you're looking to experience these games today, you have a few options. Option number 1, get a NEO GEO AES home system, but you can also get a consoleized version of the NEO GEO MVS system pretty cheap on AliExpress. Another option is you can shell out, I don't know how much this is going for these days. I think I bought it for like $100 like 4 years ago or something. But you could probably pick this up on Amazon, and it comes with 20 games built in already. And you can also mod it so that you can play any game you want from the NEO GEO library. Or you can get yourself a Saru cart and put the bin and queue files on there for research purposes only, of course. Okay, so to wrap things up, the Sega Saturn might not have as many games as the PlayStation does here in the US. But for 2D arcade enthusiasts, especially NEO GEO fans like me, it offers something special. These ports represent some of the best ways to experience SNK's classics without breaking the bank on an actual NEO GEO system. The Saturn's library is filled with hidden gems like these, showing that the losing console can actually still be a winner for certain types of games. So what are some of your favorite NEO GEO games? Did you ever own a NEO GEO? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like and subscribe button. This way I can share with you some more retro gaming content. My name is Serge with Polygon Legends. Thanks for stopping by, and keep it retro, folks. Till next time.